And I know Joel Klatt on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline will agree with us. The Bama win feels like a win and a half since it's on the road in the SEC, Klatt. That's like a half of an extra win. Oh, you're muted when you're killing Dunaway. You're muted for some reason.
Stop it. Am I really?
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now. Yeah.
There we go. See, that was on your side.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Sorry.
How we doing, boys?
Awesome.
We're doing well. Can I just say, in my tweet, did I say that it's hard?
Dunaway,
Is it hard?
You made me throw up on Saturday. You are like, what? You might as well take a check from the SEC. You're like the propagandist for Greg Sankey, and you guys all just buy into it, and then there it is on Saturday night. Kirby Smart. It's just hard to win this conference. Hey, at Missouri, Kirby, shut up. Like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh, yeah, it's harder to win at Missouri than it is, Iowa. It's like what drives me insane about this, right, is that this sport is subjective, like it or not, right? Like, this sport has a lot of subjectivity to it, which makes it inherently political. And in politics, narrative drives everything. And this narrative, perpetuated by you, Dunaway, is that, like, all of a sudden it's harder in that conference to win on the road, that like a win at Missouri is. And what they do is they understand that everything is sell, And so, listen, Kirby does what he should do, quite honestly, in a subjective sport, in a narrative-driven sport. Guess what you do when you don't have a lead until 4 minutes to go in the game at Missouri? You start saying, like, how hard it was that day, even though that same Missouri team got beat by 28 by Kansas State.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then everyone is like, fuck, you're right, man. Kirby, you're right. It's hard to win it's hard to win in conference everywhere on the road. It's hard to win at Iowa on the road. Michigan was up 27-7, and it looks easy because their offense is. It was hard to win at Oregon State for USC. Ask App State how tough it is to win at the SEC. Ask them.
Oops.
Yeah. 6:19 p.m. Central Time. My tweet went out, and it didn't say it's not easy to win in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
There's my tweet.
But there was the implication.
Winning SEC road games are so hard. Winning SEC road games are so hard. I just watched
There's
Kentucky and Ole Miss.
Everyone knows
LSU,
exactly
Auburn.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, with that said, Alabama was able to win on the road, Klatt. Really interesting game. Up 28-0, then 23-0 run by Arkansas. They hold on. They win the game going away 49-26. Two parts to this. You get Bryce Young going down. It looks like an AC sprain. We'll know more in about an hour when Nick Saban goes live.
I doubt it.
Well, we might not. But you've probably had that injury. You've been hit so much.
I have. Do you guys want to see it? Mine's totally blown out. I still have a lump in my shoulder.
Well, tell us. Oh my gosh!
I was not expecting
Like a
that.
shark bite. So do you expect? Is there a chance Bryce plays this week? And if not, what did you see from Milroe that Alabama can still have success, moving forward offensively?
Well, I thought that they were better running the football because of his threat with his legs. Not that Bryce can't run; he just doesn't. He's scrambling to pass. You guys know that he's good with his legs. I'm not saying that he's not, but I thought that the run game opened up because of the style that was being played. Now, I think he will play. I also had the other side. So the one I just showed you, that was complete, just like totally blown out. And I played, I think it was 2.5 weeks later. I did not do the surgery. Some people reconstruct it so they don't have that gross lump the rest of their life. That's just the end of my collarbone. It just sticks up like that. So, and then you're out for the year. But if you just put it in a sling and take things that are, maybe frowned upon, then you can play in a couple of weeks. I did the other side. This was grade 4. Grade 1 in my left side played right through it. So I think that Bryce, there's no way that it's a 4. And even if it is, and he decides not to get surgery, it would only be a couple of weeks. So judging by the way Nick talked about it, even after the game, saying that he had struggled with it before and it doesn't look, I expect him to be okay, but it still remains to be seen. I don't think that we'll learn a lot from Nick right now, but it is that injury, by the way, which is the reason why when I released my top 5 this Saturday, guys, the normal people are like, oh, of course you hate the SEC. No. Alabama was going to be the number one team in the country for me, hands down. I think that they're better top to bottom than Ohio State. But in this week, in this snapshot, if they played tomorrow with the health of Bryce Young in question, like I leaned Ohio State. So I put Ohio State number one. They seem to be, at least at the quarterback position, much more healthy. And so that's why I leaned Ohio State 1 and Alabama 2. Georgia was not in the equation, in the discussion in my own head, which can be long and rambling at times. But that discussion in my own head, Georgia was not in that equation this week in this snapshot early in October, because you can't do what they did in the last 2 weeks. 10-point game early in the fourth quarter against Kent State. Only lead is 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter against Missouri, and just retain your top spot, right? You got to be punished a little bit for playing poorly of late. So that's where it all kind of ironed out for me.
Joel Klatt, Fox Sports, with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. It was this week last year where Texas A&M had their one good quarterback game of the entire season.
Yeah.
They haven't had it yet this year, and, I mean, Zach Calzada's gone. I just can't see it coming against Alabama. They are so bad on offense, Klatt.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason they should have lost against Miami. They were outplayed in that game.
Yep.
And they should have lost against Arkansas. I mean, I still am dumbfounded. Like, KJ Jefferson thought he was going to Space Jam from the 5. You know, it's like double foot. It's like,
wait, the size of a linebacker.
He's just like, you know, he's just going to jump in from the 5-yard line. So A&M's not a very good football team right now. I think that we can all agree with that. And they're talented, but they're just not a very good football team. And offensively, it just is not working. And if you start to look back, I think that you can throw some questions out about Jimbo's ability to develop and sustain, more importantly, quality quarterback play. You know, I think that when you look through his history, you know, he's had some guys that are really talented and have played really well, but very few, if any of them, have sustained over a long period of time. Even Jameis Winston, as great as he was in his Heisman year, and guys, he was great. He regressed the year after. I think he almost led college football in interceptions that next year. So, you know, I think you start to look at this and you're like, man, you know, Jimbo loves to throw it out there, and he plays both sides of the coin. Blames the players, and then he'll be like, we got to coach them better. It's like, well, which one is it, Jimbo? I don't understand. And I'm a big believer, huge believer. Listen, my dad was the first lieutenant in the Marine Corps. He fought in Vietnam. Then he was a high school football coach. He beat into us. I used to sit when I was 4 and 5 and 6 years old, and the reel-to-reel back and forth film at our kitchen table. I've been watching this game for a long time. I've been sitting in coaches' meetings for a long time. And the best coaches I've ever been around understand this fact. Whether the players are executing or not, the coach feels the responsibility of the fact that what you see on that film, whether it's reel to reel or now a digital copy, what you see on that film, you are either coaching or allowing. And great coaches approach the game that way. And I just don't sense that from Jimbo.
Well, look, if I'm an A&M fan, I'm upset for a multitude of reasons. But I look at Sonny Dykes in year one and what his offense is doing right now and what they did to Oklahoma this past week. Almost 700 total yards, a lot of balance on the offense, over 300 passing, over 300 rushing. Max Duggan is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, how can they have this quarterback? How can they have this success? They're ranked 17th. We're going to be 3-3 by the end of next week.
And lucky to be 3-3, but you know, like we talked about, right? Like that ball goes off the top of the upright, for goodness sake. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And by the way, Sonny's the opposite of that. You look through his history and you see quarterbacks that don't come in with a lot of stars and end up playing really good, efficient football at the college level. I think he's doing a heck of a job at TCU. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. There are some people that I just like, I would love to be just really witty and smart. I'm not. I'm just a football guy, right? But the TCU Twitter handle, did you see this?
Fantastic.
Unbelievable. Okay, so you know what I'm about to say here.
Yeah.
If you don't know and you haven't seen this, TCU and OU, I mean, TCU is just running them out of the building from the get-go. This didn't get away late. Like, it's happening right from Jump Street. They are getting all over them. And, of course, I believe the game's on ESPN, and they keep kind of, like, updating Judge.
Oh,
right? And it's
not
like
updating,
the whole
interrupting.
chase for 62. Yeah, I mean, they're interrupting. And the TCU Twitter handle was just, it was brilliant. It was like, hey, chase for 62. Who gets there first, Aaron Judge or the Frogs? And I'm just like, that's brilliant. That is so brilliant. You take something that everyone's frustrated about and you make a joke out of it. But to your point, Sonny's a really good coach, and he got caught. By the way, all right, let me back up. Again, this is the ramblings of an unorganized mind. He got caught at Cal in a ridiculously tough job, and he's a good coach. The same can be said for Justin Wilcox, who's at Cal now, right? You get caught into a place where at Berkeley, guys, I just don't think you can win at Berkeley. There's just no support. They're constantly fighting against you. And so Sonny got out of there and he left. He gets to SMU. And now what you're seeing is more of what Sonny Dykes could potentially be in college football. This is a better case study in what he is as a coach there at TCU. And it's pretty good. Undefeated, and they'll face Kansas this week. I think Justin Wilcox is in a similar vein. And when you've got 5 Power 5 jobs open right now at the beginning of October, I think that he's going to be up for some of those jobs. And by the way, there likely will be a 6th, though. I mean, guys, Bryan Harsin's not going to survive this. I know we speculated last week. I know I threw out there the Deion Sanders stuff, but you guys tell me, like, that's not going to continue, is it?
No, but I'll let Brown have tell you his thought on this, and it's a great point because that coaching staff is divided with Boise people and players who actually played for Auburn, and Brown has a good thought on why they haven't pulled the trigger yet.
I mean, you got a couple of Auburn guys, Zach Etheridge and Carnell Cadillac-Williams, that a lot of people think you would pick the interim, one of those two guys. You're not, because both his coordinators are Boise guys. So it would feel kind of weird if you fire the Boise head coach and do a coordinator, and Etheridge is actually the associate head coach. So I feel like maybe he gets the job. I don't know, Klatt, that you want to take an Auburn guy, give him the interim job the week they play Georgia. It doesn't feel like what you do to one of your own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, give him a 40-point beatdown on national TV. That's not something.
You guys are so. I tell you, that is a good old boy. You're right. I don't think that enters other people's mind outside of like that pocket of the country.
Maybe not.
You know, like he's one of ours versus one of theirs.
Wisconsin didn't care, did they?
Yeah, Wisconsin just fired that guy right away. Yeah.
You know what's interesting though about Wisconsin is that I think that the made right now, which I was surprised. I don't know about you guys. Like when I saw that, I was like, whoa. I did not expect that. Now, granted, they have not played well. They're 2-3, and they've gotten embarrassed twice at home, which is not good, and then really embarrassed on the road against Ohio State. They got beat by Washington State earlier in the year and then Illinois. And by the way, the bad blood there is that everybody in Madison hates Brett Bielema for leaving Madison. And so when he rolls in there with the Illini and beats you, like that ain't a good look. But the undercurrent there is that there have been a lot of people around that program, money people, that have been looking at Jim Leonard and being like, he should be our head coach. And he has stayed patient and stuck around even amongst years in which he gets offers to go be the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator. And I think this was kind of like all right, let's give him these last 7 games and see what he can do. And when you look at their last 7, especially in that division, by the way, there's 6 teams tied in the Big Ten West, bad division. 6 teams tied in the Big Ten West. He could go 1-6. He could go 6-1. So this is kind of a true audition for Jim Leonard, to your point. So all of those, politicking is going on there with the timing of the Wisconsin move as well.
Your Colorado job opened up as well. Your beloved Buffaloes, and one of the names, a really good list of coaches that us media people always throw out these lists. The names aren't always on there, but I really love Jeff Grimes play calling at Baylor. Troy Calhoun does a good job at a lot of names, but I see Bryan Harsin's name on there. He did a okay job, a good job. I don't know how you would judge his job at Boise State before he got the Auburn job. What is Bryan Harsin to you? If Bryan Harsin was given the Colorado job, would you be excited about that?
The Boise experiment at Colorado is kind of why we're in this position. So,
You could say no because you already have with your reaction. So
yeah, I mean, and by the way, I'm just trying to put this palatable. I like Bryan. I think any school, this is not just a Colorado thing. This is not just because Dan Hawkins did such a poor job at Colorado. This is more, I think you got to be careful when you're hiring a coach that's in decline versus on the ascent. And Bryan seems to me to be, not seems, I mean, he's just like, he's in the decline. I don't know what you can point at and you can say, okay, he's done it. He's taken a team and he's proved that he can take a bottom of the barrel team and build them into something. This is why Lance Leipold was such an amazing hire from Kansas, right? Like he wasn't really on the radar. And then all of a sudden he gets there and you're like, oh wait, he's done this before. That's why I look at a guy like Willie Fritz at Tulane. I think that's an interesting name for Colorado. I don't know if he would go up there or not, but I think that's interesting. I think Jeff Choate is an interesting. He's an assistant at Texas right now. He was a coach at Montana State and had some decent success at a place that's hard to have success. Those are the names that I think are interesting. Troy Calhoun's a great name. These are the names that you can point to and you can say like they understand what it's like to be in a program that is underachieving, to put it mildly, and go in there and try to build something that is successful.
You were the Big Noon Kickoff was in Iowa City. Joel Klatt with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com.
Yeah, super
hotline.
Easy place to win.
It is not.
Right
Kinnick is fantastic. Now,
real easy.
It's
so easy.
Are you heading to Bloomington this
Big
week?
Ten.
Are you?
I am.
Yeah,
I
it's a tough
am.
place
How
to
about
win.
this?
What
so
time
here we go.
What time does the Michigan pregame show start for you this week?
Wow.
Yeah, the Michigan pregame starts at 10 Eastern, and there'll be some sprinkling of Indiana. Might throw a feature in about Kansas. It'll be exciting. Kansas plays on FS1. Yep, can't make that up, against TCU with game day there, in a week in which Paul Chryst lost his job, Bryan Harsin keeps his job, A&M and Alabama play, Red River is happening, but game day is at Kansas, kickoff is at Indiana. Listen, hell hath frozen over right now in college football.
I was going to ask you, though, you were there and saw it up close and personal. Kirk Ferentz is the winningest coach in the history of that program, but his son is not a good offensive coordinator. How long do they get to keep doing that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Bryan, I don't know how long. I mean, Kirk is running the risk of that ruining his reputation and his ability to stay there. That's the problem, and maybe he thinks to himself like, listen, that's just a non-starter and we'll move forward. I would say this. And this is not a defense, because listen, by the way, I was saying it during the broadcast. I don't know if you guys watch, but I was like, hey, this isn't working. This can't work. The play calling is not building on each other. They haven't, they found some success and then they went away from that success and they haven't built on that success and so on and so forth. No one was more critical than me. Having said that, though, you don't want to go try to chase something that is not your identity or won't be complementary to how you need to win, right? Like Iowa has to build themselves into wins. That's the way that they have to play. They have to protect their defense. They have to play field position. They're one of the best in college football at doing that. And what you see is, like, for instance, David Shaw chased something offensively and has ruined their identity, and in the process kind of just taken down what was, for a period of time, a very proud and physical brand of football. So, I'm not saying that means you have to keep Bryan Ferentz, but I don't think you should go chase something that's going to be, quote, more explosive on offense. Does it need to be better? Absolutely. But it still needs to be complementary and fit with the identity of how Iowa needs to win.
And that's sort of what happened to Wisconsin. They sort of lost their identity in recent months offensively. Utah, UCLA, after your game on Fox, 2:30 on Fox, is really, really a fun game to me, because Utah, despite their loss to start the season, still a really good football team. And DTR looked so good the other night on Friday night in the win over Washington, I thought.
You guys stayed up for that?
Oh, yeah. It's college football, man.
The Pac-12 just can't get out of their own way.
They really
It's
can't.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, so last week they have a couple of really good matchups. Wouldn't you? I mean, Washington, Utah, or UCLA was a good matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Washington had a couple of nice high-profile wins. Now, maybe they don't look as good now, in particular the one over Michigan State. UCLA was sitting there undefeated, not played anybody. And here they are kicking at 10:30 Eastern time in a half-full stadium like late on a Friday night. It's just like, what are you doing? Their television deal has just killed them. Then you fast forward 24 hours and they've got Oregon versus Stanford, which, say what you will for Stanford, that's still kind of a marquee game from a brand perspective in the conference. And it's the same thing. It's being played super late. When was the last time the Pac-12 captured the college football world for just one television window?
Sure.
When was it?
When Pete Carroll was there, they had a lot of the prime time ABC, ESPN games, I guess.
So we're talking now. That's
15
14
years.
years. Yeah, 15 years.
I remember, was it a
this
Saturday night where Stanford upset Chip Kelly's Oregon? It was I think.
There's been a couple,
Yeah.
I mean
it's
Dunaway
few and far
glazed
between.
right over when Stanford beat Notre Dame with Gus and I on the call in 2015. Don't worry about that.
I only have 4 TVs, and I'm sure there were 4 tough SEC road games going on at the same time.
That's right. Like Ole Miss was just grinding it out at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
While Notre Dame was going down at Stanford, but tough to win at Vandy. It's a tough one. Tough to win at Mizzou, Kirby. Oh, so tough. So tough to win at Mizzou. So stupid. And everyone just buys it. It's like the lead on SportsCenter, and everyone's like, yeah. Tough to win in the SEC, Kirby. Shut up. What are we talking? It's Missouri.
It is, man. That crowd, they were sitting on the rocks.
yeah.
The M, you couldn't even see the M. There were people on the rocks.
I can't believe we let
It's
that
the
stay
equivalent of like a gym out there, right? If you're a gym, like 24-hour fitness and then like Gold's Gym, even though it's, I don't know, a Lifetime Fitness or whatever. And then one of their ads is like, oh, tough to lift 225 here. As opposed, like, I'm sorry, is it not 225 at the other gym? Like, what are we doing?
All right, see Klatt in Bloomington, Indiana. Tough spot for Michigan.
Drink it in.
Going to Indiana. Fox 6 here locally, 11 o'clock on the Big Noon Kickoff Saturday. Thank you, Klatt. Have a great week.
I know that
What?
4 straight Michigan games.
I know. Woo.
Everybody in Birmingham is just like, you bet.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
We'll see you next Monday. Thanks.
I appreciate you
guys.
wearing black T-shirt today. Evil Klatt on with us today. I like that.